Okay, I'm here with Pierre Seidel from the Popbüro. It's a project that supports all the music industry in the region of Stuttgart. Can you explain a little bit what the project is about? How could you describe the scope?
Our office, the Popbüro region of Stuttgart is a facility basically owned and supported, a public facility owned and supported by three others, and that's the youth center of the region of Stuttgart, which is the biggest one in whole Germany actually, with 40 facilities, and their main focus on some facilities is based on music, with small rehearsal rooms and small recording students for pupils and students and people, just if they want to explore music and a little bit more, and small stages where they can perform and do live shows. And that's when you're really young. And second one is the cultural department of the city of Stuttgart, with a focus on clubs and of course of the infrastructure here in Stuttgart, the cultural infrastructure. Okay. And the third party is the economic department of the region of Stuttgart, section creativity, and we have two sisters, the film commission, who takes care of all the movies and the cinematic aspects, and the media initiatives, who are taking care of designers, architectures, all the other cultural departments, and our main focus is on pop culture and popular music actually. So if, for example, if we find a young band who works at the youth center, and they're pupils and they work together and they love to play their instrument, they get together and form a band maybe, and then they need to write songs and they need a rehearsal room, and they can find that in a youth center, for example. And then after they've done that, they probably want to perform. They want to go out and play some concerts, and that's where they can find small stages in the youth center. If they're getting better, they need more the life clubs maybe in the city of Stuttgart. So that's where the cultural department comes in, and if we can give them some help, some support, maybe small financial supports, or just in case of seminars, how to improve themselves, for example, for marketing, in mixing, in recording, in how to get a booker, how to get the management and stuff like that. We help them on their way there, and if they stay together and maybe get a little bit more successful, they want to record a studio, they need the infrastructure, they need a studio, they need a producer, they need maybe tour bus, a booking agency, they need a management, they need a label, distribution company, all that. And if we have this in this area, it's an economic focus now, it's an economic topic, because all these companies pay taxes, they employ people, so that's good for the region. So that keeps it all together and makes our small world go round.
Just to explain the geographical scope, you mentioned that the Stuttgart city is around 700,000 people.
Just the city, but the region is about 2.7 million people.
And we were discussing before the fact, which is very particular from Germany, and it's also great, the fact that you have the options, and bands have the option of going out the city, something that we don't have because being a small island. So you have this touring possibilities for bands. So do you help them to tour around the region and the cities close to the...
Well, at least the region, but you have to ask yourself, or the bands or the musicians have to ask themselves, at what point does it make really sense to go out and tour? For example, if you want to play up the northern part of Germany, I don't know, in Hamburg, they have the same problems as we do, even if it's a bigger city. They have a lot of other young bands we have that too. But if all the other bands, young bands, unknown bands want to play in another city, who comes to see them?
Right.
What audience, you know? So, of course, it makes sense to see, for example, Bruce Springsteen, because everyone knows him. The people know him. They want to be part of that concert, the music, everything that's around, the image, and so it doesn't make sense to in my opinion, to give a young unknown band financial support to tour somewhere around the world if they don't have the infrastructure behind them, you know.
Right.
It's still, I mean, it sounds really hard, but we're still, at the end of the day, we're still talking about a product.
It is.
It is. And it doesn't, there is no different if it's totally alternative music, if it's salsa music, if it's jazz music, hip hop, pop, or heavy metal. It's still, if you write a song, if you want to go on stage, you want to make it public, you can do that for yourself. Then you can stay 40 years in your rehearsal room. But at that point, where you step on stage and perform, there's something there's something you need back. At least a reaction of the audience.
Right.
If they love you or they hate you, it doesn't matter, you know.
That's
so
okay.
At that point, you make yourself public and you sell something. And as well-known artist is just in a bigger perspective.
Right. And can you tell us how the project works in terms of maybe how many people work here and what are the areas of scope?
Here in our office?
Yes.
We're a small office here. How many people are here? When we're all here, probably about 11 people, 10 or 11 people, with 3 interns, of course, and but so we're 7 people here. Okay. And as I said before, our employees here, they have the same structure as for the musicians probably, or the industry are here. There's a focus, one colleague is taking care more of young musicians, bands, pupils, students. She works with more with the youth centers, and there's another colleague who is more in charge of technical aspects, who can help clubs, companies, maybe people who want to found a new festival, you know, create something new, or they need help, they need support. Okay, how do I have to work with the officials, with security, with all that
logistics and
and we can support people there. And there's another 2 people who are mainly focused more on economics, you know, working with companies who are already successful, you know, and how can they help them? How can we bring them to bigger fairs, for example, South by Southwest in the U.S.
Right. So most of the people are working directly with the people in the industry, with the musicians, with the companies, with the venues, with the producers.
If they need our help,
okay,
they need to come to us.
So they come and ask for support in some specific area.
Yeah, mainly our main focus, of course, is more bands and musicians, bottom up.
Okay, from the case of the students that you mentioned.
Yeah, of course.
School,
I mean,
community.
For an example, if you have a label that's working very well, they don't need any more support, of course, but we need to hold contact with those people, you know. If we need something, it's a lot easier now to break that gap between young musicians who don't have a network at all to us who are networking basically every day.
Okay. Usually we use a lot this value chain analysis. If you were to education, creation, production, distribution and exhibition, consumption, conservation or heritage in some cases. If you were to analyze the Stuttgart region, this value chain, because you're trying to be sure that everything is working, you know. Which is the main challenge for the music, for this popular music scene and industry in Stuttgart? What is that thing that you have to say, if we have to solve this to the cycle to be growing or developing?
I wouldn't say there's like just one problem we need to solve. I can just speak for us now here in our region, but now, since about 1 or 2 years, we noticed that there are less bands.
Okay.
And that would be the major problem, because we don't need more industry, we don't need more labels or anything if there isn't an artist.
Yeah.
And that's because that's a worldwide phenomenon right now, because the very young, the youth generation, the generation me first, I would say, they have more problems to commit themselves to work together. It's very ego, and it's very fast nowadays. So try to imagine, you know, you want to be a successful, whatever that means, band. It's not just like a marriage where you have to compromise with your partner. It's at least 2, 3, 4, 5 people who have to commit every day, every decision they make. And they don't have, you know, not all, but some of them, they don't have that time anymore, or that patience to work constantly on a product for 10 years.
Right, because it's not the reward is not immediate.
Yes.
And you don't even have the certainty of knowing if it's going to work. So you have to be very resilient in terms of very consistent also. But again, that's very different from other industry. When you do a job, you do the job, and you get the salary every.
Yeah, but you want to compare it as a musician. Compare it to just any other job you're doing. If you want to be a dentist, for example,
yeah,
it takes years.
Yeah,
you're gonna probably make an internship. You're gonna study for 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever years. Then you might be assistant doctor. Until you're a dentist, it takes in your own office or something. It probably takes 10, 12 years.
Yeah, that's a great example, which is true.
So why should it be more easier in the music industry?
So and you meant the first thing that you mentioned when we started talking was trying to help bands stay together. Probably that's
or at least found a band. And that's another problem. We have a lot of, you know, here's a lot of DJs, you know, or singer-songwriters, because I just have to focus on myself. And to stay together as a band is a big problem. And found a band is you have to go even a step further. If there's no music schools anymore, or if music isn't a subject in school anymore.
Yeah.
How should people get involved with music, or even pick up an instrument and learn it? There's no need for it anymore. And if you then don't get the attention right away, because what we have right now in everyday life is, okay, you post something on Facebook and no likes. What the hell did I wrong? You know, and that's not how real life works.
I have to go back to this, because I think all the time it always goes to the same place: education. If you don't put some attention, we just keep talking about the music industry, the economic impact, but again, if you don't have the source to produce that, so maybe that's something as basic as guaranteeing music education at schools, music programs, music teachers. Mm-hmm. So again, that's something that in every discussion, it always goes back to education. So one last question: if you were to give some advice to this musicians, you know, I know that there's a lot of things they have to do, but because of your experience, what you see working with these bands and artists, what advices could you give them to?
Well, I guess the bottom line is do what we really love and have patience.
Patience. That's a hell of a word. Well, great. Yeah. Thank you very much for this nice talk, and I think it's the project is a great model of how to impact the whole music sector, and I think that a lot of regions, cities, and countries especially in Latin America, which is what we want to impact more, could be a good model for them to develop this kind of cluster music industry development sectors. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.